Not the inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everyone and welcome to the VRRC League of Champions Round 2 for the TT Cup here at Monza. My name is Daniel Handover and joining me in the commentary box as always is Mr. Dave Marshall. Dave, how are you doing this very fine evening?
You know what, Dan? We're keeping well and we're at a track where who knows what the world is going to happen.
I tell you what, that's the best way to put it, isn't it? That is absolutely the best way to put it. Who knows what is going to happen with Monza? It's just such an amazing track. I cannot wait to get started. We also have Mike Yao on the broadcast, providing us some fantastic coverage as always. On the screen, look at that. Monza, such an infamous track in not only F1, but the entire racing scene and the racing community as a whole, both in sim racing and in the real world. We are on the Grand Prix configuration, 3.6 miles or 5.7 kilometers. Lots of tricky medium speed, high speed corners, low speed corners, chicanes, parabolica, which is going to be one that I'm interested to see how these TT Cup drivers get on with it. It's just going to be incredible. I can't wait. I don't know about yourself, Dave, but this is out of the actual races for this TT Cup, this is one of my personal favourites.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there regarding the track. Turn one is notorious with being a bit hectic and a bit, dramatic in the first lap. But hopefully we can get through the first chicane reasonably cleanly. But after that, with push to pass into play here, Monza is going to be by far one of the hardest tracks regarding racecraft to judge who is going to be in which position.
Indeed, it is very, very true. We're going to see how that picks up, obviously, in a little bit. But we do have the championship standings on your screen now. Mike Epps, who unfortunately isn't actually racing in this particular, I say unfortunately, he is doing some real-world coaching at Alton Park. So, I mean, I do feel for him. I really, really do. It's definitely a hard life. But fair enough, like I said, obviously he is over there, so he won't be joining us, unfortunately, for this evening. Jack McIntyre in second and Jordan Brennan in third place, tied on points as well, though. So very, very interesting going into this race. Looking down as well, look at Robin Walters, Dan Zelos. First time out, we saw him at the TT Cup, put in an absolutely stellar performance despite the issues that he did have. He's currently tied on points, so obviously Robin Walters. Isaac Smith, 23. It's just so close throughout the entire field, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a few other drivers as well that's jumped in tonight. We've got the likes of Lewis Brown, who is, another real-life JCW mini driver that's jumped in. He just wants to sort of keep his hand in the sim racing. He's been brought in with the Mini E-Series run on Saturdays, and he goes, you know what? I don't do enough of this. Let's jump in on the Tuesday night. He's seen one of his rivals in real life, Dan Zelos, entered the series, and, he just wants to beat him, really.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the rivalry extends from the real world into the sim world, doesn't it, to be fair?
It does. I mean, a racing driver's a racing driver, aren't they?
Absolutely, through and through, like I said, regardless of whether it's real world or sim world. As you can see, though, on your screen, this is part of the League of Champions. This is the final of the League of Champions series. We've had some amazing races. We've had Porsches, as you can see on the stage. We had the Porsche Challenge, then the Fabath Cup, then we've had Classic DTM, which is absolutely incredible. And like I said, rounding it off with the TT Cup. Okay, and you can see at Monza, 4 rounds, 2 rounds after this, obviously remaining with some amazing championships. But we do have as well, Dave, some amazing prizes on offer, which I'll let you talk about because they are just incredible for what these guys are up for grabs.
Yeah, so for each championship we've got trophies and caps for the top 3 drivers. Which driver doesn't like to have a trophy on the mantelpiece? But for the overall league, which is the scores obtained throughout each championship added together, we've got prizes ranging from the very top prize is a full wheel and pedal set. Second place is a full rig chassis. Some phenomenal prizes that realistically, for what these guys have paid to enter this championship, it's a relatively small fee for what you get out of it.
Indeed it is, but it's very much a marathon, not a sprint. It's one of the things we've actually said quite a lot over the 4 of the 4 different series of the League of Champions, is it's very much a marathon in the sense that you've got to perform well in all of the different disciplines. As we see, that was Luke Weston deciding to go into a bit of Formula Drift style in a front-wheel drive TT. Not the ideal way to get round. That is the second chicane, turn 3 and 4. So yeah, not ideal going through that. But yeah, it's so much more. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to be quick, essentially, in every single discipline. And the cars and the driving styles, they vary so much. I think it's actually potentially taken some drivers by surprise as to how varying driving styles they need to have throughout the series.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'll pick an example out, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but Jack Mack, one of the fastest sim lads in the community, came on and says, I'll quite happily admit the Fabath, the single-seater in the second round, he struggled. It wasn't a car that necessarily matched his driving style, or maybe he just couldn't extract the most out of the car, struggled, but yet still, through consistent finishes, did reasonably well in the Fabath Championship, and yet still is currently winning the overall for the League of Champions.
Well, indeed, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if necessarily you have the pace that you feel that you should. Look at that train down there. Right, so that camera angle there, you are going to see that absolutely going into the race. It's just going to be one big train. One of the things the guys will actually be doing, touching on qualifying, obviously 12 minutes left, is the draft that these guys are going to want to do. This is why we're seeing a big train happening now going through into the first chicane, as currently on board with Robbie Stapleford, currently top of the times at the moment, 2:10.966. Yeah, similar to Formula 1. Remember we had that Formula 1 fiasco of Monza, it was 2 years ago now, Dave. This is, I don't think we're going to obviously see that, but it's very much people want a slipstream and they want a tow going down pretty much wherever they can.
You know what, exactly that. And I was actually trying to spot on my other screen here whether or not Jordan Brennan and Max Edmondson are following relatively close, because obviously, they're my teammates for Riggs Esports, and I wonder whether, they're going to try and use the advantage of being teammates to allow each other to follow one another, as Jordan Brennan is there on screen. So as we can see, Max Edmondson isn't actually in front, he's further ahead. I wonder whether then we're going to try and work together to get that tour. But you know what, some drivers are actually distracted by it. You follow a car 0.4 of a second behind, it's really quite distracting. All it takes is that first driver slightly miss his braking zone and then actually chuck you off your fast lap that you would have gained the time on had you been in his slipstream. So some drivers just prefer to just go out, get the head down and get the lap in.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones where that is absolutely something that you can do. However, something like Monza, especially with these cars, I don't know. I think that's going to be something that the drivers are really going to have to work with. They're going to have to work with the slipstream and use it to their advantage as much as they can, because if they do have a potential sort of loss of time, this is one of the people that we're going to see here. So this is Will Fairclough, who has just topped the, as I say that, he's going to prove myself wrong. He's going to prove me wrong. He just topped the time in standings, but obviously now everyone's coming through. So this is where it starts to get to the stage of, as I can't think who that was pulling out, but Will Fairclough is now currently on his next flight. Oh dear, that wasn't good. It's qualifying, chaps. It's not a race. Let's keep it calm a little bit here. I'm not too sure who that was. That was Rob Butler, I think, was one of the cars that were involved in that small little bit of contact. But yeah, it was, I think, one of those ones where, looking through practice times, Dave, we actually saw, I believe it was Will Fairclough, who was really, really quick in practice. So interesting to see what he does in qualifying now. He's currently 8 tenths behind Max Edmondson, who is currently on the top step. yeah, I think Will Fairclough was really, I think he's going to be one to watch.
Yeah, if I'm honest, we're looking at the timing sheets for before quali, but in there you can use push to pass, so it was really hard to gauge who was actually in what position regarding the lap time. Some drivers had used push to pass, some hadn't, and it meant that leaderboard was really jumbled up regarding the lap times. So now we're really seeing for the first time what the drivers have actually got, because obviously push to pass is disabled during qualifying.
Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff indeed. Didn't think about that. Well, like I said, we're going to get, 9 minutes and 20 seconds to go. We have got what we're going to be finding out. We're going to be finding out who is on the top step, because they don't, as you said, they don't have push to pass available for this particular qualifying session, as we've got there. Jack McIntyre, glowing brake disc. That is going through the Ascari. The Ascari S's there with the Ascari chicanes. Keeps it all nice and in check. So current, like I said, current time for P1 is a 2 minutes point 4. Rob Walters just under 2/10 behind. What is Jack Mack going to do? Not entirely sure. It seems to be an okay lap. It was pretty tidy going through. You can lose a lot of time going through the Ascari chicane, so you've got to make sure that you keep that momentum up. It's a big, big thing. Look at Will Fairclough. He's just gone third. We're only 2/10. He's 800ths behind Robin Walters at the moment. He's under 2/10 behind Max Edmondson. What is Jack McIntyre going to do? He's just gone in 5th. So that was 1.6 seconds. That's definitely not his fastest. I'm sure we'll see an improved lap from him at the moment. Andy Carroll currently in 9th as we got the onboard shot, or as it would be an onboard shot. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Very, very much. Again, this is what you're talking about, Dave. You've got to make sure that he's carried a bit of overspeed going through into turn 1, because he was behind, trying to think of the driver who was ahead of him there. But the overspeed, you've got to be so careful that, as you say, a slightly later braking zone, then off you go into the gravel.
Yeah, so I believe that's Paul Laramie's actually following. And yeah, is it exactly what you said? You're carrying probably, a point. If you're within 0.4 of the driver in front, you may be carrying 10k faster into a corner. If you try to use your usual braking point, you're then running on, it knock you straight out your rhythm. But if you can use the advantage you can get by being in that draft, it can be a godsend when it comes to qualifying.
It can indeed. And I think, to be fair, Will Fairclough is obviously taking full advantage of that, because he's still in P3 and he's a good 10th off. Oh, well, he's a good 10th ahead of Jordan Brennan, currently in P4. Look at the gap there behind that. So Jack McIntyre, 0.02 of a second behind Brennan in P5. We've then got another half a tenth behind with Andreas Rillig. Another very, very good performance from him. As we can see, Will Fairclough there, bottom right corner of your screen. Looking. Do you know what? He's looking pretty relaxed, isn't he? He's looking pretty relaxed and pretty calm.
You know what? I asked him last week. I said, was that a podium cap that you were wearing during the race? And he says, I think it was a podium cap, but it wasn't a winner's. So I'm going to stick on the winners to see what happens tonight. So I believe that is probably a Dunlop winners cap he's got on it there at the moment. So there you have it, Will. But it seems to be doing you well so far, because honestly, that is a phenomenal time to come out and do out the box. Max Edmondson, obviously, pole there at 2 minute point 4. Lewis Brown going, new to the VRRC championships relatively. Second round of TTs jumped in within 0.2 off pole. So, some real standout performers here at the moment.
It is indeed. We've still got 6 minutes. We're over 6 minutes left. Isaac Smith getting a little bit tussly. That may have been Paul Laramie actually going through it. Turn 1 and 2. First again, Andreas Rillig in P7. A very good performance from him as well. But like I said, there's still some time left to be had. I believe that was Luke Weston that's just gone into P14. You just saw on the left-hand side on the timing tower. So everyone is out on track at this moment in time, apart from Jack McIntyre and Paul Laramie. So again, it goes to show track time is so very key going through, especially at a track like Monza. It's, I suppose, to a certain extent as well, it is a little bit of luck depending on the slipstream that you can get. At the same time, you've got to be quite tactful on when you exit the pits to try and sit behind someone. So I think strategy in terms of qualifying is probably the most complicated out of all the all the races that will be happening for this series.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to try and find out off a few of the drivers how calculated it is when they go out the pits to see whether, there's any drivers that think that can jump in behind and start to follow. But I think for the majority of this grid, we're seeing them really quite separated, and they're not really getting any advantage from the car in front. But another thing we need to probably ask them is, what's the tyre wear like in this quali? You know, how many laps can we get out of the stint of them tyres? You know, are they only good for 3 laps of a pushing lap? And then do you have to pit? Is it not an option? Obviously, fuel will also be worth quite a lot here, with it being such long straights as well. So, you know, quite a lot of variables here in qualifying, meaning that, you know, to see the top 10 only separate by just over half a second, you know, it's phenomenal speed at the moment.
It is indeed, yeah. And that's these are times that are still coming down. You've actually got under a second. You've got just over a second separating the top 14. Okay, so that's another massive thing as well. So it's just so close. There is going to be one massive trade. You look at Dan Stellos, Rob Butler, it's a thousandth of a second. Okay, you look from Walters to Fairclough, that's 8 thousandths of a second. It's just so close wherever you look down the field. Oh, hello, it's going to be a little bit jumbled here. There was 2 cars exiting at the pits there, waiting for, that was Mick Sutton to go through. So very good sportsmanship there. One thing I like about the championship as well, we've seen this throughout League of Champions, is as much as everyone is in a position where they are racing and battling, and obviously there's a championship at stake, there are some good prizes at stake, and it is a championship. At the same time, though, we do see some good sportsmanship, and we have done in the past, and I'm sure this will continue. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, you know what? On the whole, the driving standards, as we see actually our safety car driver, Rich Hayden, there, out for a spell in the car to see what he can do himself. There was rumours that he might actually see if if there's not a safety car needed, whether or not he can actually race in this race. But we'll wait and see whether that actually ends up happening. But yeah, as I say, the actual driving standards of this championship, you know, it's relatively relaxed. We tend to, stay, if there's a driver that knows he's done wrong, just put your hand up, pull over at the side of the road, give the place back, and continue battling. Every driver in this championship knows how to drive. They know the way they want to be raced by another driver. And, on the whole, you find drivers know if they've done wrong or right.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the chat as well. I think we've got some fans of Luke Brown here, because there's lots of people that are saying some very interesting things. I think I'm not gonna say them obviously on stream, but So it's good to have everyone here. Do get involved. Make sure you do get involved on the stream. Ask any questions that you've got. Like I said, we want to make sure that we can give everyone as much information as possible. So if you want to focus on anything, and like I said, any questions you've got, do ask away. And we've actually got a fair few people watching, so thank you very much all for tuning in. Hoping that you are going to stay through race 1 and race 2. Look at Paul Laramie in P16. How is he going to take the Ascari chicanes? He goes all okay. Nothing really to note about there. So he goes through, and he will be starting he'll have at least one more lap. Actually, no, he'll only have one more lap, and then that'll be it. So this is where lap times are so long. Drivers will probably now, anyone that crosses the line, they will only have one lap left. So I'm not entirely sure who that is going to be. I'm just looking at those. Obviously, Hayden goes Laramie. Yeah, he'll only have one lap left. So this is where it's going to start to get a little bit tricky. Max Edmondson currently still your pole sitter. We've got Andreas Rillig has put in a stellar time. He's now at less than a tenth away from Max Edmondson. Jordan Brennan, again, he's put in a really good time. P3. Luke Brown, P4. Walters, P5. Will Fairclough still doing really well in P6. Jack McIntyre, look at the gap. 0.3 of a second as opposed to everyone else ahead of him. The gap is less than 0.2 of a second. Interesting there. Not entirely sure, again, if it's something that Jack may be trying to settle into a bit. I know he's got a lot of other championships on at the moment, so he's got a lot of things to practice for and a lot of things to move forward with as well. As I say that, he's just actually proved me wrong. Thank you very much, Jack. And he's now gone just over 0.2 of a second, currently 0.2 of a second off of Max Edmondson. I mean, 0.2 of a second around here, Dave, that's not really a lot, is it, with the amount of slipstream and drafting these guys are going to be doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you saw that on actual track, 0.2 of a second is probably literally a car length. So we're talking very, very minute fractions here. Yeah, I mean, what's that? As we see, Robin Walters actually just went and proved me wrong on the line at 2 minute 0.297. So nearly 0.2 faster than anyone else on the grid. Robin is definitely going to have the confidence now going into this race, especially with push to pass being active. That is a real confidence boost to put it on pole by that much when the grid is as tight as it is.
Indeed, yes, that's the thing. Hopefully, I'm guessing what Robin Walters is sitting here at this point, he goes, if he can just sort of crack on and check out on the first of a lap or so, that's going to put a massive benefit. As you say, it's really going to put him in good stead, because that's one of the things as well. potentially what we should have, or what Edmondson, Rillig, Brennan, Brown, what they should all be doing is making sure that Walters doesn't pull away. That's the thing. If that happens, it's going to be so difficult to try and catch back up. This is one of the really key things. Is they don't want anyone to pull away, because if a gap is created, it's so very difficult to bring that gap down. But that is it. I mean, qualifying is already over. We've got Will Fairclough. Unfortunately, I believe he's had a bit of an off, so he won't be finishing his lap. So he stays provisionally in P6. Dan Zelos in P11, and we're going to go Andreas Rillig. He is still on one more lap. What is this going to be? Is it going to be any quicker? It's going to be very close indeed, but I don't think he's going to make a difference. No, he is 0.3 off, so still in P3. Really good performance there, though. Jack McIntyre, what is he going to do for the remainder? He goes into P3. What a last lap from Jack McIntyre. He is just, again, continues to prove me wrong, and he's now gone up into P3. Very good last lap. When it all needed, and when it all needed to be counted, he really pulled that lap out of the bag. That was a really good last lap there from Jack.
Yeah, phenomenal pace, that, wasn't it? And great to perform under pressure like that as well. You know, you're talking the last lap, the adrenaline's maybe pumping a little bit harder. You know, when it matters, he's delivered, put a P3. You know, that could be just the rescue he needed here in qualifying to make sure he's not caught up in any of that Turn 1 carnage that we might see. But just before we jump into the race, we'll just touch on this push to pass feature. You know, for any newcomer watching this championship, you know, push to pass is quite a unique feature given to this discipline of car. It's basically a button on the driver's wheel that once it's activated, it gives them an extra 50 horsepower for 8 seconds. Then it has a 16-second regeneration time, and you get 15 of those per race. So it's 20 minutes for one race. It works out about, what's that, 2 a lap, Dan? Something like that. So yeah, it's going to be key in order of when to use it, essentially. As we actually just see, Jordan Brennan there on the very last lap of quali must have managed just to sneak at 0.2 faster than Robin Walters.
Wow. This is, if we thought this was going to be close to start with, wow. That's absolutely amazing. Jordan Brennan goes in, as you say, yeah, 0.2 quicker than Robin Walters. Very quick indeed. But I do believe we have a few people to chat to in the we're just going to be going through, like I said, unfortunately we did have Robin Walters who was going to be, obviously took provisional pole, but yeah, Jordan Brennan just about sneaked that last lap in, and I mean 0.2 quicker, that's a big margin. I know it's, I know we said about it's only a car length, however, to be that quick, I mean, yeah, a very good lap. And to be fair, speaking of the devil, we do have Jordan Brennan in the broadcasting booth ready to be interviewed. So Dave, I'll let you have a chat with the main man on pole position.
No worries. Right. We'll jump down. Are you there, Jordan?
Yes.
Talking about putting it in at the last second. I mean, that must have been, you crossed the line with what, 1 or 2 seconds on the clock, and you've gone in and put a lap time, you know, 0.2 faster than anyone on the grid. But realistically, you know, you're a good 4 or 5 tenths faster than the average lap time on there. I mean, was that a slipstream, or was that just an absolutely hooked up lap?
So I left the pits with not a lot of time left. I was like, this is going to be close. And I knew I had a lot of time in the first corner, got it right, and I was like, this is the lap. And then coming towards the end, Isaac made a mistake and he just gave me a massive toe in the last sector.
Wow, dear me. So it was actually, you know, a help from a teammate, really, that helped you get so much of an advantage. But, I mean, be honest, on that back straight, you know, you see you got a slipstream. How much was that actually worth on that straight alone? Just to give us an idea for lap time. So was it 2 to 3 tenths, or?
If it's the full length of the straight, it's going to be 2 or 3 tenths.
Yeah.
Without push the pass.
So realistically, you were still on for putting it nearly provisionally poor without that slipstream anyway. So, you know, it was still a phenomenal lap.
Yeah, it was pretty decent.
Yeah, well, you know, phenomenal lap there, John. As you can probably tell, I'm quite gobsmacked that you've done that time, because, you know, I'm not going to lie, there's drivers that would really struggle to do that with the push to pass. So to do nearly a 59, completely raw, fair play to you, John. That is some pedaling, that.
Cheers, thanks.
I'll let you go. Well. I'll let you go and get your composure ready for the race. But good luck for the race, and get your head down.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, there we go. Jordan Brennan takes it by, I mean, the skin of his teeth. That must have been that could have been potentially in the milliseconds that he had that lap in the bag. Like, just.
Yeah, so, he was on about that slipstream down the back straight towards the last corner. That's where Isaac had made a mistake. He was sitting on the straight. Jordan managed to tuck in, get the slipstream the whole way down that, and he reckons it was probably worth 2 to 3 tenths. In saying that, 2 tenths is what he actually managed to get over Robin Walters. So even without that, he would have been fighting for that provisional pole there. So we can't take away the lap from Jordan there, really, even though he had the slipstream. But he was saying about that turn 1 into the chicane, He said he didn't quite hook that up, but on that lap, he did. And I can tell you now, the pressure that puts on as a driver, once you know you're on a lap, you can't then make a mistake, because if you hook the rest of that lap up, you're looking at possibly pole.
Indeed, yes. And I mean, to be honest, regardless whether you look at it, that has given Jordan a mass. He said he hit that turn 1, he hit the apex right, he knew what he needed, he now knows what he needs to do. It's amazing how quickly the driver can retain that information ready for, especially in such a high pressure environment and a high pressure situation, to still be able to hit that apex point. Fair play indeed. But just a few moments time though, and we're going to be going away. We've actually just been told we've got a couple of minutes left. So what we're going to do, Dave, what we're going to do is we'll just have, I'll tell you what, we need to have a look through the chat, actually, because there's a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've been watching the chat, Dave, but there's a lot of different questions that have been going. I think someone's asked if one of us is a Geordie commentator.
Near enough. We're not far from Newcastle.
But no, we've got. It's really good to see you. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. It's been really, really good fun, and like I said, we're enjoying all of these. All these people have just got hashtag bants. Absolutely indeed. We do have as well. I want to touch on Dave. You mentioned this to me just before. Whether we have time just before we get started, I'm not too sure. But there's a funny story with one of our drivers that did occur. Was it a few days ago or so? Which we need to touch on at some point. It's absolutely hilarious.
I mean, we'll touch on it, and it might come out during the race. But yes, there's no names mentioned, but there is a driver that had a certain run-in with the police. But we'll explain it later on during the race. But I just want to touch quickly before the race started on the strategy, Dan. All these drivers have push to pass now enabled on the track. Are we going to see drivers enable it before turn 1 to try and get that run down to turn 1 into the chicane? Or are we going to see drivers hold off on the first corner and then use it to get the advantage down the second straight? Because that's, from me, from experience and doing practice, is where push to pass is strongest on this track.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about it myself, and I was sort of looking at it. I wouldn't be using it now. I'd be conserving them. I would be really conserving them until the race sort of settled in a bit and gets underway. There's no point in wasting them, just in case something does happen or you do get a little bit of time.
But I put this question to you though, Dan. Let's put it provisionally. You've put it pole. The driver next to you uses the push to pass to turn 1. Do you retaliate and use it? That's the question.
Oh, that's a good one as well. That's it. I probably wouldn't. I'd play the long game. I know there's sprint races, but I'd play the long game, I think. I don't know about you, but that's what I'd do.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll wait and see, but I think I'll be tempted to give it the push to pass just to keep that advantage of first place.
Well, like I said, we've got what we're going to do, but what are the other drivers going to do? We're going to find out in but a few seconds' time. As you can see, the lights are just about to come on. In fact, they do come on now. Everyone is now waiting with bated breath. Lights are up and away we go. Now, everyone seems to get a pretty, actually looking at it, an even start from everyone. I wonder how many push to passes are going to be used. There doesn't really seem to be anyone that's really sort of utilising them. Potentially though as well, that looks to be Will Fairclough maybe that didn't actually use one. You can see in the aerial shot, he seems to have dropped back. Is he going to be waiting? I'm not too sure. But at the moment, Brennan, Edmondson, Walters, Rillig, McIntyre, Brown, Butler, Stapleford, Dorman and Carroll side by side. That's Walters and McIntyre. So that's going to be Walters that's really going to have a look. I believe that's actually, apologies, that was Walters and Max Edmondson that were going side by side going into turn 1 and 2. That was going to Curva Grande. That's never going to work there. That's always going to be a call that's going to get shut off. Although looking Edmondson, that's a little bit, I think it was one side and then he moved to the other. So he's got to be a little bit cautious of that. You've got to make sure he doesn't make too many moves. What is Walters going to do? Is he going to make a move up the inside? Potentially to go 3 wide just further back. It isn't, so it's Rillig and Butler. I think that we're going to go 2 wide going through into the second chicane. And that was, I'm trying to think, that was Stapleford that's making some moves as well. So Stapleford has moved up into P7. But at the moment, Touchwood still side by side going through behind. That was Rillig and Brown. So I'm not too sure what's happened with Brown. He's dropped back a little bit here. So he's into P7, although Andreas Rillig has also dropped down. God, this racing already all about the place. Brennan, though, has already got almost a second on Max Edmondson. But looking at it, though, Brennan has got, I believe, that is one more push to pass in hand at this current stage. Obviously, that will change absolutely. But not entirely sure how that's going to play out. But I mean, to be fair, everyone, there was some mega racing, mega close racing, but everyone kept their cool and some really, really good racing. That was thoroughly enjoyable for an opening lap.
Yeah, you know what? There was a few little collisions there, but on the whole, it was relatively clean there, to be fair. As we see Rillig there, I don't know whether he's had contact with another car or he's got a little bit sideways, but he's dropped right off the pack there, as we can see, just off the very back. That's Rillig just coming down the start-finish line, straight, the back straight there, sorry. As we see Dan Zelos trying to get up the inside here of Luke Weston. Andy Carroll will be in the tour down towards turn 1. I reckon with this push to pass, you watch this move by Andy Carroll. Could this be overtaken 2 in one go? I think we're going to see it, Dan.
Whoa.
Around the outside of both of them. But they have both activated push to pass, have they? No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. So fair play, Andy Carroll. Look at that. What it's all checking up a bit. That was very, very close indeed. I'm not too sure if Luke Weston decided that he was going to have a little bit. He's going to try and go on the outside. He's done it. Do you know what? They're going to go side by side going through into Curva Grande. Are they? Actually, as I say that, no, they don't.
Great move, Andy Carroll. That was a great move to put it around the outside, go towards turn 1. You know, it's great to see him getting his hands dirty here in this.
That, I tell you what, fair play. But look at that. Luke Weston's going to try and come back. He's going to try and make the move going through into the second chicane on... that's Andy Carroll. Is the move going to be stuck? I think Andy Carroll's going to have to concede for this moment in time. He doesn't want to lose too much time because he's got Paul Laramie not too far behind. So Paul Laramie is going to obviously be wanting for these guys to carry on. But then Isaac Smith, not too sure what's happened to him. He's obviously had a bad start. He's trying to move through the field as well. So this is a battle to definitely watch out for. But Andy Carroll not giving up. He's going to want to go through. That was a bit of contact there, side by side. I'm not too sure what happened there. That was Paul Laramie and Isaac Smith. So they were going to go a little bit, they were a bit of door banging there. So not entirely sure what happened. Potentially could have been someone closing the door off, not too sure. But that is Isaac Smith has used a push to pass, and he is now through. Paul Laramie, that was, I think, Hayden. Look at Rich Hayden. He's going to want to have a go as well. So he's now potentially going to go around the outside, going into the Ascari chicanes, going through. Oh, that was never going to work. Contact. Oh, that was contact between Luke Weston and Andy Carroll. So they're still having moments here. They still do not, neither of them wants to give up this position. But at the moment, it stays as it is. Luke Weston and Andy Carroll. And now we've got Isaac Smith that's going to have a bit of a move up the inside of Carroll, potentially going through into Parabolica. Actually, as I say that, I'm going to correct myself. I don't think he's going to want to have that move. Paul Laramie's made the move back on Rich Hayden. So he's back now up into P14. All the action at the moment is kicking off right down at the bottom. Look at that. Look at the train going through. The gap has come down now from Jordan Brennan to Max Emerson. Half a second. Bear in mind, a couple of laps ago, it was a second. So it is coming down. So Brennan currently on the back foot here because he hasn't got a toe that's really holding, that's helping him along.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know how you managed to keep up with that, lad. Dan, fair play. You know, this push to pass, as you can see, is really just meaning that the racing on here, you know, one straight, a car can have the advantage. On the next corner, the other car used the push to pass, and he has the fight and move straight back. So, you know, this is what I was saying about these positions. They're incredibly hard fought for, you know, and I've got to give credit to Robbie Stapleford there, just as we see him going through on the screen. That opening move that gained him 2 positions just got right out of that trouble. I believe it was, I might be wrong here, was it a move on Will Fairclough into that second chicane? You know, Will got a little bit sideways. Robbie held it round the outside of Will Fairclough. Lewis Brown dipped the wheel on the gravel on the exit and managed to get the cut back at the next right-hander. 1 chicane, 2 cars done. There you go, clean air. He's got his head down. Great drive.
Absolutely. If you can get a move like that stuck and then you can get your head down and move away from the field, that's exactly what you're going to do. So as you say, signs of a very, very good driver indeed, a very good move. If you can pull that off and then pull away, and if you go, oh, that was a little bit, that may have been contact, that definitely was contact there because Rob Butler, that's not his normal racing line that he would have taken. So that was a bit of bit moment there. I think, again, Will was just carrying a little bit of overspeed going through into the Ascari chicane. And obviously, as we said before, we said this in qualifying, didn't we, Dave? We said this actually before the stream started. People have got to watch out for this. As I said, that Will Fairclough is going to try and make a move up the inside of Rob Butler. He has got the move done. You can see on the timing tower going through into Parabolica. And I think the move is done and dusted. Yes, however, now this is where the slipstream does play its part into Rob Butler's hands. So he's now on the front foot because Will Fairclough hasn't got anyone in front of him. That was going to be, I think, Rob Butler he couldn't decide until the last minute which way he wanted to go. Side by side going through into the first chicane. Who's going to be the last late breakers? As we see, that potentially is a move there on as well. Luke Brown, Robbie Stapleford, potentially. I think he's going to make the move, and he has made the move stick, as well as Will Fairclough has made the move stick on Butler. So Brown and Fairclough have both moved up a position in the same corner. There's just too much actually to keep track of there, Dave.
You know what, that was great racing there. We saw Butler, he got the run out the last corner. He was going to have a move on Will, managed to tuck in the slipstream, activate his push to pass, but in response, Will straight on the push to pass as well, down to turn one. There was nothing to separate them. So, as we've seen, it's a very late move by Rob Butler. Very good to just pull that out there and keep Will. That was almost an imminent collision, wasn't it, Dan? I mean, that was looking a bit scary. But, Rob will be thinking, we've seen Will in practice. He's got really good outright speed. So it might be sensible to work with Will here, get in his slipstream and try and close that gap on Lewis and Robbie in front.
Very, very true indeed. Especially if Robbie, if Stapleford and Brown, if they start battling, exactly that's, it's going to be true. So Fairclough, I think, needs to get his head down. And so does Butler. He needs to just sit behind him at this moment in time and let them both let them both catch up to. One thing you've got to note as well is Dan Zeller. He's putting in some quick lap times. He's only 1.9 seconds behind, and wow, that's a very, very aggressive curve going through. I'm guessing as well, Dave, obviously this will be one that you've actually driven these cars on this track. You've done some testing. I'm guessing going out of the Ascari chicane, that cut is completely legal. It doesn't actually give you a warning or anything through there.
Yeah, so, as long as you throw over that curve and you don't take any grass, the lap is still legal. What we've said to all the drivers, it's a level playing field. If you can find something on this track that works for your line choice and it doesn't pop up as invalid, the lap is legal. So what you tend to find is, especially with the week of practice, all the drivers end up on the same line choice anyway. They're all managed as a racing driver to find the shortest and, easiest line possible.
Indeed, but we've now got Andy Carroll, Luke Weston still battling it out. Who is going to be the last late breakers yet again going through into turn one? I'm not too sure, but Andy Carroll does have the current advantage, or as I said it, he's actually braked slightly earlier than Luke Weston, and now Weston has got the move done, although Andy Carroll now has got a slightly cleaner exit going through. How is it going to be all through Curva Grande? So the slipstream already playing a part into account. Neither of them have used push to pass as of yet. As I said, that Luke Weston decided that he wants to use push to pass. Again, drivers proving me wrong left, right and centre. It's almost like they can hear what I'm saying. So as we go through, Dave, this is your camera angle here.
It is indeed.
Going through into the second chicane. So Luke Weston perfectly positioned his push to pass. So we saw Carroll pull out, use the push to pass, and then got back in. Off he goes. However, he's now only got 6 push to passes. Andy Carroll has got 9. So I think this is going to be tables are going to be turning, I think, to the latter stages of this race.
Yeah, for sure. I think, honestly, Andy Carroll is actually really impressing me at the moment. He's been really smart with his driving. He's calculating well when to use them push to passes to his advantage. As we see, actually, he's just activated one on there, to really close that gap on Luke Weston in front. There we go. I believe he's alongside going into the Ascari chicane. Job done. There's another calculated move, but will Luke Weston now, in response, use that push to pass down the next straight towards the last corner?
Indeed, not necessarily. We're going to find out in a little bit. Rich Hayden doing some proper touring car style moves. 2 wheels up on the grass. That's definitely not the line that you want to take through Ascari chicane, but he managed to get it all set up, although that's released Paul Laramie that's going to have a... that's going to release Paul Laramie to have another move, and I believe the position is got back. Actually, that was Mick Sutton. Apologies, that wasn't Paul Laramie, that was Mick Sutton. So that is the battle between Hayden and Sutton at the moment. Look at Andy Carroll. So he's already pulled. That's a second on Andy Carroll from Luke Weston. So he's got his head down. He's now cracking on. Again, push to pass. Andy Carroll's actually using another push to pass. So's Luke Weston at this point, just seen further up ahead. So Will Fairclough has moved up into P6. So he's just overtaken Robbie Stapleford. As we get here again, this is Hayden and Sutton going to go side by side going into turn one. again, last late breakers, who is it going to be? As I say that, I think Rich Hayden has actually done it before. There couldn't have been air couldn't fit between those two cars at that moment in time. I think that was two cars became one. But Hayden calculated as it is, and he now goes back into P15. Those two are having a right old good battle. I'm sure they're enjoying themselves very thoroughly, as we both are. Watching it, it's great battling, as we said, throughout the field.
Yeah, if I'm going to be honest, I was going to use a bit of a Monty Python quote there, with one wafer thin mint. I think that's all that was between them two cars, wasn't it? So, yeah, I mean, Will Fairclough, as we talked about earlier, battling with Butler, got his head down and he's managed to close up in front of Stapleford. He's overtook him. Now he's charging Lewis Brown. This is a standout performance for Will Fairclough, you know, fighting his way through the grid here. But, you know, we've sort of forgot about the top four. They've sort of gone a bit unnoticed, but they're all sort of staying sort of relatively where they qualified. The gap hasn't really closed. It hasn't really opened. So any mistakes from them top four, and we're going to see each one of them ready to pounce on any mistake.
Yeah, I think this is the thing as well, isn't it? It's obviously we're going where the action is. Absolutely, I think that's obviously what we want to do. And at the moment, yeah, like I said, the top four, the top five, they're just doing what they need to do. You know, they've got Jordan Brennan is controlling the pace at the moment, gaps up to 1.7 seconds. Although, as I say, that potentially Robin Walters, is he going to have a move going through? Are we going to see a lift potentially until the very last lap, or at least the very last lap? No, he's not actually. No, he's decided, no, Dan, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to now go through into second place. At the moment, the move has been made. Robin Walters is now ahead of Max Emerson, but is Emerson going to try and go back? Yes, he does. They're going to go side by side going through into turn. Look at Emerson. He's just decided, nope, you're not having that position. And he's decided that Jordan Brennan is, I think, potentially a lost cause at this point, and he's now gone through. So the gap's now 1.5 seconds. So he's gone, no, I want P2, and you're not taking it away from me.
You know what? That was mega to see, wasn't it? That was, you know, a move where it was like, Max is going, no, I'm not being done up the inside. I'm going to get as late on the brakes as I can. You saw the car squirming left to right on the brakes. You know, phenomenal commitment there. That could have gone very, very wrong. Let Robin through and even put him back into Jack Max. So fair play to him there. It's interesting. We're seeing this Robbie Stapleford and Will Fairclough position change a lot. So, you know, that must be a right good tussle for 6th and 7th place there. As we see also, Dan Zelos is down in sort of that 10th place, having a good battle with Andy Dorman.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the gap 7/10 of a second. So is it going to come down? I'm sure it will be. Although, again, I mean, Dorman hasn't really used any of his push to passes. Again, as I say, that decides to prove wrong yet again. And he's now going to use one of these. These guys all can hear what I'm saying, can't they? Literally, as soon as I say something, they do decide to do the complete opposite. But yes, so Andy Dorman has still got 11 push to passes left. Isaac Smith has just got past Dan Zelos so he's now up into P10. So Smith has only got 4 push to passes left. Zelos has got 9. But yeah, Andy Dorman has got 11 left. Is he going to be able to use all of them up? I'm sure he will be. You can use, as you were saying, I think they're 2, potentially 3 push to passes per lap. So I'm sure he's got in hand that he can use them all. But I mean, yeah, at the moment, it's amazing the different strategies here as well. We have seen this, and we spoke about this again beforehand, is where the strategies are going to play their part into how the push to passes are used, as we see Dorman just use another one. So he's now down into nearly into single digits for his push to passes left. So, yeah, I think, again, it's just the amount of strategy that plays into his part is accelerated more so just because it's Monza. There's just so much different strategies available. Oh, that was a bit, I'm trying to think who that was up ahead. That could have been, that's Will Fairclough again. So he's now being pressured from Robbie Stapleford again, I believe. That is, no, apologies, that was Luke Brown. So Will Fairclough has made his move on Luke Brown. So he's now up into a top 5 position. That was, Will Fairclough is just on a mission at the moment.
Yeah, I could be wrong there. I think that was actually collision between Will and Robbie Stapleford. And I think Will Fairclough had to use the escape road there because he got skew whiff going into turn 1. So I think he managed to get past Lewis Brown there just because Lewis Brown was obviously still in the chicane. But it's nice to see Will Fairclough give that position back. You know, he gained the advantage unfairly. He's gave it back. As we see Dan Zelos there getting incredibly aggressive with Isaac Smith. Has Isaac got away with it? I think he has. I think he has got away with it. So we see the zebra car there giving Isaac Smith really quite a hard time there. But you know, we'll like to see it a little bit, don't we? Robin's racing.
I suppose it is to a certain extent. To be fair, I think Dan did back out of that. We saw Andy Carroll really close up to that gap really quite quickly. So I think, yeah, Dan Zelis recognised it was a little bit, I think, overly aggressive, and he has pulled that position back. So fair play.
Are you ready for this one, Dan? You ready? A little bit overzealous, some would say.
Oh, God, I mean, I'm done. I'm done. Goodbye.
That's my last interview. Sorry, guys.
Oh dear, I can't believe that. I can't believe that was said. Anyway, we're going to move swiftly off of that. Right. So, bottom right corner of your screen, we have got Dan Zelis and Isaac Smith, and that is the battle currently in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. This is the battle, though, for, at this moment in time, the top three. Looking at the gaps, though, Jordan Brennan, half a second to Max Edmondson. Max Edmondson to Walters, pretty much near as makes no difference, half a second. So 3 minutes and 43 seconds left to go. This is still very much all to play for. Jordan Brennan is not out of the woods yet. I actually personally thought that, obviously, with Edmondson and Walters battling, I thought that was going to be those guys just going to, battle for second place and let Jordan run off into the distance. At the moment, though, it doesn't seem that is the case. I think, again, it's because Brennan hasn't got anyone in front of him to pull him along. Whereas, obviously, both Edmondson, Walters, I suppose potentially McIntyre slightly out of the draft at this moment in time. But if these guys battle, then Jack McIntyre is going to really pull the gap up. The gap, last time I checked, was 1.9 seconds. It's now 1.3. So the gap is coming down, and Jack McIntyre is putting in some very, very good laps. So 3 minutes left to go on the clock. It's still all to play for.
You know what, Dan? That's exactly what it is. Jordan Brennan, he's got no one in front of him to use for slipstream. Max Edmondson's there. I'm actually quite surprised the group behind Jordan have used a similar amount of push-to-passes as what he has, because, he's having to use these push-to-passes to keep his advantage down the straight. Max Edmondson here, 3 push-to-passes, he's within that 0.4 of a second. He'll be almost getting the advantage of push-to-pass without even using it down this straight. So if Jordan's not careful, this could really bite him at the end of the race, with Robin Walters being on 5 push-to-passes and him being on 3.
Do you know what I would do if I was Brennan at this point? I'd let Edmondson by. I would let Edmondson by and sit behind him. I honestly, I would sit behind him, let him by, because if you can get someone to pull you along and you don't necessarily have to use those 3 push-to-passes, I think Edmondson has just used 1 more push-to-pass, so he's got a little bit closer. If the move is going to be made, I would not fight it at all. There is absolutely no point, and potentially we are going to see Edmondson make a move. We saw how aggressive he was, not giving up Walters, he was not giving up that place for P2. It goes to show he wants P1, as every driver does at this stage of the race. Look at the gap from Jack McIntyre. That's now down to a second, under a second, as I just say that. So this is going to be so close. Brennan using another push to pass. So is Edmondson. So Edmondson's only got 1 more push to pass left, but Robin Walters still has 4. I think we're going to see a charge going through. So, yeah, if Brennan was in a position to make the move, or if Edmondson was in a position to make the move on Brennan, I wouldn't fight it, and I'd sit behind and try and get a bit of slipstream, get a bit of breathing room, and then try and almost slingshot around the outside, potentially on the last lap. But that potentially isn't the case, so Brennan just needs to keep his head down, do what he needs to do, hit his markers, and off he goes. Battle 4, this is P7 and P8, so Butler and Fairclough. Fairclough has had a little bit of a slightly poorer couple of laps, so he's now dropped down the field, unfortunately. Like I said, into P8, but still a stellar drive, nevertheless, from him. And with 1 more lap to go after this, you've got, once the timer counts down to 0, there is 1 more lap, and then that is it. Look at the gap now. It is pretty much even Stevens between first, second, and third. So, but I mean, it's too close. I can't call it because Robin Walters has still got 4 push to passes left. 3 is now got 3 push to passes left. So this is now where Walters is going to make his last minute charge. He's got 1 more lap to do it. He has got, I think he's got enough push to passes left. He's got 3 to be able to use in 1 lap. I don't know. I literally have no idea what's going to happen.
It's so exciting, isn't it, Dan? I honestly, I don't want to curse it, but I think Max Edmondson here is in trouble. 1 push to pass, Robin's behind on 3. That could be a danger zone. Jordan will be monitoring that and thinking, if them battle, I need to keep my head down, don't look in the mirror and go forward, because otherwise I might get pulled back into that. And look who's in 4th with still 3 push to passes. Jack Mack.
I know Jack McIntyre is there or thereabouts. The gap's 1.6 seconds, but like I said, that can come down very quickly if these guys start battling. And as I said, so everyone's using now their push to passes. Edmondson has none left. This is completely it. As I say that, apologies, that was actually race over. That was race over. So apologies for that. There is no +1 lap. So that was actually the gap going through onto the last lap. So a couple of the drivers actually had quite a few push to passes left. So you look, so Brennan takes the win. We got Edmondson in second. Walters in third by about 0.09 of a second. And then we've got Jack McIntyre in fourth. I mean, to be fair, Jordan Brennan did what he needed to do. He set his markers up. I mean, it was close. That was really close. But apologies, everyone. I thought there was going to be another lap, and there wasn't. So, like I said, apologies for the confusion there. But, I mean, Jordan Brennan, he did exactly what he needed to do. The amount of pressure that he must have been on was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that there. I mean, we can see from the timing sheets, look at that. 3rd and 4th place actually posting the fastest time of the race. So, you know, Jordan wasn't the fastest guy out on track there, but he was the most consistent. He calculated when to use the push to passes. He's brought home the win. Fantastic drive.
Indeed, yeah. Like I said, I mean, that's again, I can imagine, like I said, pressure and tension was definitely high. However, I think, yeah, that's given him even more of a confidence boost going through. Reverse grid, though, bear in mind. So this is where it all gets thrown into the mix. And you've got reverse grid, and somewhere like Monza, that's going to be that's going to just throw all the spanners into the works you can imagine. That's going to be something that I think all of the drivers need to be aware of. So you've got Isaac Smith that's going to be at the front, Dan Zelos is going to be at the front, Andy Carroll, Dormer. So I think the person, to be fair, that's going to not necessarily gain or lose anything is Robbie Stapleford, Rob Butler. They're not going to really move about in positions that much. So yeah, I'm interested to see how Brennan works through the field, Edmondson, because they've got a very, very tall order on their hands. And as I do that, we've just been told as well, we've got some drivers for interview day if you'd like to go and have a chat with them.
Yeah, we'll go down and have a chat. So we'll jump down into the interview box, and I believe by a very, very small margin, 3rd place goes to Robin Walters. You know, that was a very, very calculated race, but how mentally straining was that, you know, for the push to pass and trying to calculate when to use it on this difficult track.
Yeah, it was quite a strain, actually. I was desperately trying to count the little bars at the bottom to see how many I've got left and how many laps were left. And even that in itself, I just had to make sure I stayed on track. But I didn't even know where I finished until you just told me it was 3rd. And I genuinely confused at the end there. I thought there would be another lap. So I finished with another push to pass to spare, thinking that I've got another lap and I was going to use all 3 on 1 lap. So, yeah, a bit disappointed. I sort of miscalculated the length of the race, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we were a bit confused here in the commentary box. We also thought there was going to be an extra lap there. But yeah, little tip, if you load up your gears app on the side, it'll also have the push-to-pass figure on the right for you. So you don't need to count the little boxes. So there you go. But yeah, great drive there, Robin. You know, standout performance and, you know, great composure to hold Jack at a constant 1.5 seconds as well. So yeah, great drive. Well done, Rob.
Thank you very much, David, and thanks for the tip.
Cheers. On to our 2nd place driver. Feeling the pressure, Max? That was getting a bit close.
Yeah, I kept on catching up to Jordan, and then Robin kept on catching up to me, and then one of us kept on making a mistake, so it was quite close. But I think if there was one more lap, Robin would have got past, because I was using mine a bit stupidly, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say he used it stupidly, but I mean, you know, Jordan was in front. Do you think, you know, did you need to use the push to passes as much as you did, or was Tor not quite useful enough to sort of stay on Jordan without using them push to passes?
Yeah, I was there or thereabouts, but I wasn't close enough to get Tor, so I was just trying to, when Jordan was using one, I was trying to use one just to stay with him, so if he makes a mistake, I'd get past, but...
Yeah, well, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in race 2. You know, it was a great race 1 for you. So if you do the same thing, it's a great point also. Well done, Max. And we're going to our P1 guy, Jordan Brennan. I mean, I said Max was feeling the pressure, but I mean, to do a full race with push to pass, and I believe he didn't get overtaken, great drive.
Yeah, cheers, thanks. I did see him catch a bit, and I did make a couple of mistakes, but yeah, finally got the win.
I mean, how did you actually find it? Were you finding you were trying to calculate whether Max was using push to pass, or were you thinking that, you know, the battle between Max and Robin was going to sort of develop, and that would allow that little bit of a buffer for you to sort of pull away then, so you weren't too worried? Or was Max really putting the pressure on?
Max definitely was quicker than me. If I wasn't making those mistakes, it would have been a bit easier. But as soon as I'd send them behind each other, I was like, oh, they're just going to get toe off each other here, and this is just going to let them catch me. But luckily it didn't, and we held off. But I think there might be an issue with this server right now.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I believe we do have a slight server issue, so hopefully we can sort that out ASAP. If we do get another race, though, Jordan, doing what you did in race 1 wouldn't be too bad, would it?
No. Hopefully we can do the same again.
Well, honestly, Jordan, great pace, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens in race 2.
Cheers, thank you.
Spot on. Right then, Dan. There we go. So, I think Jordan was quite relaxed there, wasn't he?
Do you know what? It was very true. It was very true. He looked and he sounded like he was in a position where, he didn't necessarily. Like we've spoken to him before. He's such a quick driver. We have spoken to him, and you can just feel the relaxation. There's no tension in his voice. Like there's nothing. He is relaxed. He is calm. He knows what he needs to do. This is the main thing. Like it's having the confidence in yourself and in the car to make sure that almost like you. I know it sounds a bit sort of corny and cheesy, but you and the car are sort of as one. You've got to work together. You've got to understand what the car is going to do to put yourself in a position where you are confident, comfortable, and we definitely heard that. We definitely saw that in, just heard that from his interview. So yes,
I mean, I wonder. I'm not taking this away from him, but I wonder whether the fact that Max Edmondson is on the same team as Jordan, whether that just took a little bit of that edge off of pressure, knowing that Max wasn't going to do anything silly. But to be fair, talking to these drivers all week, for all Max and Jordan's in the same team. There's still that rivalry there. A driver is out for himself. He still wants to win. It was great to see the race that we just saw, but I don't think Max won't make that move if it's on.
Yeah, I know this is the other thing as well. It is, everything completely changes now. For as much as all the drivers, they've got a bit of footwork, like in terms of what they need to do, and they know where people are quicker, where people are slower, going through this particular track. At the same time, though, this is where it becomes a little bit tricky because of that reverse credit. Just throws so many different bits and pieces. You've got so many other different things to think about. Obviously, the main one is being traffic management. Now, most tracks we had it at round 1. I think traffic management was going to be easy. It's easier than here. Monza, because everyone's got that toe that they can just sit behind people and get themselves pulled along. Yeah, it's the similar sort of thing, I suppose, if you have with someone like Le Mans, anything with some really, really high sort of drafting points and drafting places. Like, so Le Mans is the first one that springs to mind. It's a lot more difficult, I think, to work through traffic because, like I said, people just get pulled along.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're just having a few tech issues here. That's why we're sort of experiencing the slightly longer delay. But I think just while we're sorting out the server and the tech issues, we'll put on some short videos of promo and we'll get straight back to you.
I've got that lightning inside me, son of a god. I'm like a titan that's rising, oh, just you watch. I'm stepping into fate, there is no time to waste. I've got that lightning inside me, this is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. I'm cranking up on the throttle, victory is mine. Show you the harder the battle, harder I fight. I've come too far to quit. Step back, I'm going in. I'm cranking up on the throttle. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made.
Welcome back, everyone, to the VRRC League of Champions. My name is Dan Hanover. Joining me in the commentary box is Mr. Dave Marshall. We've got Mike Yao on broadcast as well. We do apologise. We have had a few server issues at this moment in time. And unfortunately, I believe, Dave, we are actually going to be wrapping up and moving forward into next week. So we do apologise for the technical issues. But rest assured, we will indeed be here next week. I mean, to be fair, Dave, for what we saw at race 1, I think we're going to be all excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenal race, wasn't it? I mean, I don't think you got a break to even get a breath in throughout that race. I think I might have to apologise because that might have been with my Zelos comment there of why the stream's gone down. I don't know whether I'll be back next week after that one. I've got my head hung in shame, so I'm very sorry. I make a public apology, but we'll move on. Yeah, it's a great shame that we've had a server issue, and if I'm honest, it reminds us a little bit of the good old rally days when you would get a stage closed because of crowds everywhere and what have you. So these things do happen, but we'll be back next week when I'm sure there'll be an equally big display of carnage and great racing.
Absolutely, and like I said, we really appreciate everyone's support. We appreciate everyone getting involved and joining in with us and chatting to us on stream. It is always a pleasure to catch up with everyone, and we do look forward to seeing you next weekend. Next Tuesday. I was going to say next Tuesday. But until then, everyone, I said, do make sure if you haven't already, do make sure you like, subscribe, and like I said, get involved in VRRC. We do have some championships also as well available, and some more places going through. So make sure you do join the VRRC Discord as well if you haven't already by visiting their website. Which, Dave, if you could just remind it quickly of the VRRC website, that'd be fantastic.
Yep. So just straight on Google, Virtual Reality Racing Club. Go on there, and there's loads of information regarding our up and coming leagues, up and coming championships. Our shop's fantastic where you can buy everything from full blown motion rigs down to a bottom spec entry level just to get started on. So feel free to check out the website. Get involved in sim racing, but also keep active on our Facebook page on Virtual Reality Racing Club.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, all being well, next weekend, we will see you there. So thank you very much, everyone. But do make sure you take care and stay safe.
The inside of coats.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.